Good afternoon, everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. In this video, we are going to work on replacing the injectors and the return line system for my 1989 Ford F350 with 7.3 liter IDI diesel. Without further ado, let's get started. So the backstory here is I've been trying to bring this thing around, and I was moving it around the yard one day and I heard a bang. And then after that, it was down on power. It was blowing a lot of smoke on start. So I think I had an injector blowout. I don't think any of the spider lines broke or anything, but I think I lost an injector. So I bought a new set of, well, yeah, and I guess new to me, reman injectors from Pensacola Diesel. I'm going to swap those out, and since we're going to be in the neighborhood, the returns leak a little, not much, but I do have a return kit, so we will take care of this, and I'll go into how this all works here a little bit better. All right, if you don't know too much about this engine, let's do a super fast overview, because that's not the point of this video. This is a 8-cylinder engine, so it has 8 fuel injectors. That's what these fuel lines are feeding. There are 4 on each side, and what we're going to need to do is first get the fuel line off, gently move it out of the way. We are working with hard lines here. They'll bend, but you go crazy with them, they will break, and then you're sad because it's broken. So after that, we have to take, I think it's a 1-inch wrench, and then spin this out, and that will let us get the injector out. But once we do that, we also have to look in there and inspect, make sure everything's okay, no excessive amounts of carbon, stuff like that. And meanwhile, this is a return style fuel system, so anything that the injector pump doesn't need, which is this fella right here, anything he doesn't need to send to our cylinders gets sent into this series of lines that run all the way back on either side and hook in to this metal return, which sends it back to the tank, or one of the tanks, right? This is a dual tank vehicle, and it does the same thing on the other side. So you can get, because it is notorious for leaking on these vehicles, you can get a replacement kit that replaces these plastic bobbers right here, and also will replace the line and the clamps, so that you don't have any leaks, which, if you know anything about diesels, anything that allows air into the fuel system's not great, because then you don't crank, you don't start. You can crank all day, but you won't start. All right, so I did a little bit of digging, and our fuel lines, the fastener there that's holding them to the injector, that is a 5/8. So the question is this long enough for me to get the leverage I need? And the answer is, oh yeah. That wasn't on there near as tight as I thought it might be. So I still, after all this time, haven't purchased a traditional SAE set. All my wrenches that are SAE are a little bit short. Get this loose to the point of, okay, good. So that's just right out of the way, no problems. All right. And then this might be stuck, and we can take a small flathead to wiggle this loose, and I will come back around to this once I get the other fuel lines loose, and we'll go from there. And once we have all the return stuff out of the way, then we can actually get on the injectors themselves and get those loose. Alrighty, so I'm trying to get to this, it'd be injector number 4 using the Ford nomenclature. So that's going to be up near by the radiator on the passenger side. And there's stuff in the way, right? There's this reinforcing bar, and there is a return line right here that needs to move. So since I'm redoing the return system anyway, I'm just going to take this off, get it out of the way. And for the bar, there's a 9/16 at either end. So what I'm going to do is I've already taken it off at this end, loosened it that end, and once this is out of the way, I can just swing the bar out of the way. Then I should have access to this injector. I loosened them all on this side, except for the very back. That one did not want to go, and I didn't have the angle on it. I may actually put a little penetrating lube on that and see what it does for me. But anyway, that's what we're doing to get some access over here. And once we get past injector number 1 and we're moving on to injector number 2, I don't think we'll have to do anything super crazy. And we can just get access to the rest of these and loosen them up. One other thing I want to show you, and we'll use this guy over here. So watch this. Notice how the line is rotating with the fitting. That's not good. If you're not paying attention, you will twist off the line. So what we have to do is get some penetrating oil or something to separate these two so this can spin independently of this line. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't done this kind of job in a while, stuff like that may can't come up. The other thing is, there's this thing, and I don't know what this thing is about. It's not there on the other side. Someone spun this in, I don't know why. And looking at the spider line, right, the fuel line, it maybe is designed for that to be there. Not sure. I'm gonna dig into this further once I safely get this off. But that's just something I wanted to point out. All right, so I managed to get them all off. Injector number 1 back there by the transmission dipstick. Whoo boy, that was fun. Hopefully none of that cross-threaded, because you can get a new spider. That's what they call all the lines that come off the injection pump. It ain't cheap, but you can still get it. Anyway, let's work on the return stuff. So we should be able to take like a little jeweler's screwdriver. I actually may go for something bigger here because, oh, well, okay, that works too. So that clamp was basically doing nothing. See, I can wiggle it back and forth. It doesn't really want to come up though. So I think I'm going to get a heavier screwdriver because I already have enough clearance that this one can't really do much. So I'm going to get a heavier flat blade. Basically do the same thing though. Take the tip, twist it up and down like that, kind of force it up. And we're going to go down the line, and we're going to do that on everything on injectors 5 through 8, which is this side, and then we'll do it on 1 through 4. Saving the fun side for later because this one's going to be more annoying. There's more stuff in the way. And there's a few more lines too, right? Because you've got that line that's supposed to come up here and stoof like that. Okay, so this is the driver's side return line. This is the front. This is the back. I'm keeping it preserved so that way I can easily rebuild it when I get around to it. I noticed that this was basically not holding at all. This was basically not holding at all. And rule of thumb that I'm seeing, providing that the last guy did it right, or if this is the original return system, the cups have 2 different sizes. There's a bigger opening and a smaller opening. The smaller opening needs to be facing the top, and the bigger opening faces the bottom. So got that laid out, we're good to go. Now I'm going to tackle the driver's side, get those out. And then I'm going to check my kit and actually see what all pieces and parts I have. I know I'll have this stuff, but the connecting lines that go over to the metal return line and a couple other things, don't know if it has that. Okay, so now we have the passenger side. You see this is the line that goes up to your, it's the fuel air water separator and all that jazz. And then there's a line back here that actually runs all the way across to a metal fuel line that's about right there, that runs down like this. And that's the metal return line back to the tank. But anyway, we got what we need. It's all laid out. And I may have this backwards, but it's still the correct pattern. Anyway, so that's that. Now we get to actually play with the injectors themselves. And one thing I will mention about it is if you had an injector that had a blown seal and so combustion gas was blowing up into the injector, you may have carbon that's locked the injector in place and you may have a fight on your hands to get it out. We're going to find out. All right, so I broke this guy loose, and I think this is 1 inch. I don't have a 1 inch wrench. What I do have is a 26 millimeter, which is slightly loose, but it works. I think 25 is the equivalent of 1 inch, but it worked. I may have to get the combo wrench out, or the adjustable wrench, if I run into issues. But anyway, it's loose. Now, when we go to take this out, one of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to come out clean, and that's going to be awesome. Kind of get that bent out of the way a little bit. Or it's going to separate in the middle, and we're going to have problems. One of the two. Okay, this one came out clean. It even still has its sealing washer right here. Or I think it does. So you can see how that's crusty? I think this one was leaking and had carbon blowing up into it. I think that is petrified exhaust gas, but it came out, so this is good. Like I mentioned earlier, after we get all of these out, we're gonna look down the bores and we're gonna see how crusty they are, and we'll do what we can to clean them if they're particularly crusty. But again, very important, there's a copper washer that's supposed to be on the end of the injector that seals the injector, because I mean, diesel injectors have a ton of pressure that they're pushing against, right? It's different than gasoline injectors. Make sure this comes out. If it doesn't, it's still going to be down in the bore. Now, the good news is it can't fall all the way into the combustion chamber, which is good. But the bad news is you're still going to have to like take a pick or something and fish it out. I think we're good on this one. But anyway, I'm going to dig these out and I'm going to lay them out. And once I get them all laid out, we'll take a look at them and kind of see how they look. Okay, so let's take a look. I laid these injectors out in the order in which they are in the engine, right? So this is injector number 4, that's injector number 8. Moving back. So one thing I found that was really interesting is the entire left bank, or the passenger side. All of these injectors are relatively clean. They have a little bit of crusty, but not much. But then all of the driver bank, or bank 2, particularly injector number 4 or 5, it's just nasty. So like that one's okay, but this one was leaking really bad, this one was leaking a little bit, and this one was leaking really bad. So I'm hoping that's what my problem was, is I had leaking injectors, to tell me what that bang I heard was. So anyway, I got to stop here. I'm out of time today and the weather has turned against me, so I'm going to plug my bores and We'll pick this up later when I have more time to work on it. Very quickly though, what I found real fast is there were some angles where I couldn't get a wrench in. So I remembered I had a deep well 1-inch socket, and I had extensions so I could get above all the spider lines and everything. And I also have my little 1-foot breaker bar. I think this is like 2 foot, but point is I was able to use those, get above all the busy that was right around the injectors, and then break it was mainly on the passenger side. I didn't have the access with the wrench, and I was able to use these, break it all loose, get it all out. And fortunately for me, none of these were so badly blown and so badly carboned up that I was not able to get them out. But one thing I find interesting, injectors, 4 and 8 don't match. 4 has less threads than 8. The rest of these line up with 8, but 4, for whatever reason, has less threads, which is interesting. I wonder if all that's by design, or if this is going to be the 3rd set of injectors for this truck, or I don't know. Anyway, catch you guys probably next week where I can continue working on this. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a new day. I was curious and I thought, is this the first set of replacement injectors for this truck? And the answer is no. So this truck, I would imagine, originally would have shipped out with either calves or stanidines back in 1989. I don't know who the OEM was at the time, but that's a calf. This is a stanidine. This is a Delphi. This is another Delphi. This is a calf. This is a calf. This is a Lucas. And this is a calf. So I guess really thinking about it, this probably started out with calves, and then it's had a couple of injectors replaced along the way. It's probably what's happened, and no one ever did a full injector replacement at once, which is what you're supposed to do. So anyway, it kind of backs up my theory that this truck, its odometer rolled over. It's probably 160,000 miles, and that it got bare minimum maintenance. All right, I'm gonna get my bore scope out, and we're gonna take a look in the bores, see if any of them are super chunky, if there's anything left in there, and once they're cleaned up, we can start reinserting injectors. So here is our replacement from Pensacola Diesel, and I think they remanned these in-house, so you'll notice there's no brand markings or anything on it, just this stamp that says 3001 right there. But they said this is what you need for a 6.9 or a 7.3 non-turbo IDI. It's a reman. You'll notice we got a brand new sealing washer right there, which is good because sometimes you don't get them with a reman, so always check what you do. So we're going to have this cap to take off. We got this cap to take off. I'm going to go ahead and drop these guys in. Before I do, though, we're going to put just a touch of anti-seize on these threads so that if this truck were to ever go north and hang out up there for a while, that this wouldn't freeze in the head, which nobody would like that. So I'm going to do that, and I'll get all 8 of these in, and then I'm going to break the torque wrench out to get the torque on these right. Because if you under torque these, they leak, right? If you over torque them, well, then they become one with the cylinder head, and we don't want that either. All right, let's work on that. Alrighty, this is going to rock a little bit because we're on a wooden board, so the tripod's going to rock. But I have some copper anti-seize. And we're going to, I mean, not much here, because if you put excessive anti-seize on threads, it does change the locking characteristics a little bit. So just that. Even that, I might take a paper towel and smear that out. The other thing you may want to do is here at your seal. I think they used oil to make it so that this wouldn't fall off. See that? You don't want this to fall when you're installing, right? So one thing you can do is put a dab of grease or anti-seize in here to make sure that this doesn't fall into the bore when you're trying to insert the injector. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead, and I think I'll just use my finger since we're on camera here. Take that excess, probably wipe it on my shirt because I'm a complete savage. And let's get this installed. All right, so I'll need to do some quick reading, but one thing to keep in mind is we've got holes bored in the injector for the return system, right? So I got to see if those holes do need to line up with the holes in the plastic collars that sit right there, or if it can be any old direction and it doesn't really matter. But that's as far as that's going to go for now. I'm going to repeat that for the remaining 7 injectors. And I guess I'll need to screw on that funny little adapter that I found for injector number 4. Because I did some reading. I can't find anything for an IDI where that would be a thing. But I did find that if you somehow got here and you have a Power Stroke, first gen Power Stroke, so that's 95 to 2002, I think. That actually is a thing for you guys, that you get one special injector that goes into cylinder number 8. And that's to avoid a misfire / kill your injector early issue. But we don't have that in the IDI, so I don't know why the fuel line got bent the way it got bent, but I'll figure out what I'm going to do with that when I finally have to do something and not kick the can down the road. Anyway, I will bring you back once I got all that in and I figure out what to do with the return system. All right, this is my return line kit from Delphi. It is a something, a Delphi 22349 maybe. As you can see, pretty straightforward here. You get all your cups. And there are 2 variants of this, depending on if you have an early or a late model IDI. I'll have to compare these to make sure I got the right ones. My old cups look like they're okay, so I could reuse them if I need to. And then they give you a bunch of fuel line. So what that means is you got to come over here and take a look at your existing line and get cut the correct lengths out of it, right? And then stitch it all together. And don't forget, if you're playing along at home, you have a long line a crossover line in the back there that goes over to here. And then you've got a little short run right here you got to take care of. So got to cut segments out for that as well. Got all the injectors in. I got to contact Pensacola Diesel. See if they need a core for these. I try to send cores back when I can because it keeps these things in circulation, which means more and more guys have the ability, and gals, to go out and bring stuff back to life or keep their truck on the road or van, because there were 7.3s that went into vans as well. So anywho, gonna put a pin in it for now. I got some other stuff I got to do, but the important thing to me anyway was that I managed to get all the injectors in, got them to seat fine, and I kept except for this guy. I don't know where his cap went. But I've kept the plastic caps on everything so that if it rains again, I don't need to worry about water getting into stuff, because I was really glad that I plugged up all the cylinder holes with paper towels, because I think it's because the truck's sitting at an incline right now. Water, it rained really hard last night, and water came down, and it hit those paper towels. And some water did get in the cylinders, but because they are all open, or they were, because I had the injectors out, I just went ahead and bumped the key, spun the pistons, and got it to shoot all the water out, so we don't have to worry about hydrolocking. And then I put these in to plug it. So hopefully I'll be back a little bit later this afternoon and we can get more stuff done. All right. So for the injectors, we need to torque them at 35 foot-pounds. I actually have a torque wrench. I'm going to give it a little extra oomph because you lose torque when you begin to extend out your socket setup. But I need this height to get around the fuel lines. We're going to use our 1-inch socket. Again, 35 foot-pounds. Get it in there. One, two. And what's nice here is we're not having to torque in a pattern or anything, right? Because these are 8 individual injectors, so we can just go down the line. Once we get the fuel line out of the way. There we go. Of course, the guy in the rear is going to be fun to get to. Anyway, we're going to do that. We're going to go down the line, get these guys torqued in, and then I'm going to go ahead and build the turn line kit. Get that set up. We'll see how she goes. So, a couple of things I've noticed with our return line kit. I'll show you the first. It's got it laid out. So this is our replacement cups, right? The Delphi kit. Compare that to this. What do you see? All these are center line now, and this is offset. I don't think that's necessarily going to hurt anything, but just something I noticed. I haven't laid out the passenger side yet, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to go ahead and compare lengths here. So this will be pretty straightforward, I think. We just take one in out. I mean, that's not a lot of clamping force. And we're going to get our replacement fuel line. Yeesh. Interesting. And it's gonna go ahead and start cutting. If I had a longer tool, it would be better. There we go. That should give me a better cut. Yeah, that turned out all right. And we will just do that a lot and build this over. I mean, I guess you could try to transfer over this braiding. This is it's a layer that's put on to try to prevent abrasion. But this is so old, I think I'll run without it, see how we go. All right, so as you can see, I've got the driver's side ready. I've got it laid out. Before we slide it on, we want to lube up these O-rings with just some engine oil so that the caps will slide on and they'll seat, no issues, they won't tear or anything. So over here I just took a little, this is some fresh 1540. Let's get it on your finger. Just kind of lube these up. Having to balance on a step stool is not very fun. I can't imagine folks that work on their modern trucks, late model trucks I guess is what you call it. Those things stand really tall without a lift kit or anything. It's got to be a booger bear to try to get to the back. Anyway, once you do that, just go ahead and start putting things in place, and it is going to be an enormous pain in the butt to do that because everything is going to catch on everything. That's just how it is. But you'll just slide these in like so, get it seated, and you know you'll have it when the threads are clear up top here so that you can, you know, screw the fuel line back in. All right. This is also where you get to see whether or not you made your lines long enough, because you're going to find out right here, right now. All right, so I got all that. And then this is going to go under our glow line to this nipple over here. So I'll take care of that when I have both my hands and I'm not holding my camera. We got to do that, and then we will be done with the driver's side. And then we got to redo the passenger side. Now, remember, we got this really long line. See that? Goes all the way under this thingamabob whose name I forgot, that functions kind of like a PCV valve that I probably need to replace because it looks really old. Oh, that's loose. That's fantastic. Somebody's been in here. That was not me. Tighten that up. Anyway, and come over here. So don't forget that line. And of course, you've got your long line up front that actually goes up to our separator. So just keep chewing on it, guys. It's if you're not holding a camera, this is not bad, and it doesn't take too terrible long. This feels like forever because I'm holding the camera and fixing really flaky connectors. This one I really need a new pigtail, but I'll just have to massage it some. All right, so I decided, I looked at the gaps, and like I said before, this is like brake line, so you can bend it if you're careful, but that would require a lot of bending, and I don't feel that comfortable doing that. So I just put this spacer back in. That dropped in fine. This one dropped in fine. This one is okay. Number 4 back there, he's slightly off kilt, and I can feel it when I'm trying to thread it on. It's trying to cross thread. So, point of this little segment, you need to treat this like a brake fitting, because that's what it is. It's a flare fitting. And with flare fittings, for them to go on, they need to go on perfectly square and true. If you try to force them on at an angle of any kind, bad stuff happens. They strip out, they cross thread, they tease you, the flare doesn't sit correctly. There's all sorts of things that go wrong. So keep in mind that you may have bent this line ever so slightly when you were moving the injectors around, and you may have to bend it just a smidge to get it to sit true. Be gentle when you do this, because this is a tube. And if you stress it too much, it'll tear or it'll kink. and then you're SOL and you need a new line. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, everything is in. I made these lines a hair too long, but I'm not super worried about it. I just got a little bit of wiggle and jiggle going on. Other side, I was much more precise. But, yeah. This guy here, that's evil. That nipple points almost straight down. You're gonna need some hose pliers to get that on. And I would lube it up with some silicone spray so it'll slide on real easy. Otherwise, you're gonna be here a while. Okay, I'm gonna button this up and get my glow plugs in. And then we're actually gonna try cranking this to see if I have resolved the issue. All right, here we are. We've got everything reconnected. We've put our bar back in its place. We made sure we have all our connections back together over here. We've made sure that we got our glow plugs back in. I'm gonna tackle those another day. So I wanna see this thing will run. And we've seated and reconnected all 8 of our fuel line to injector connections. And you know, they don't need to be crazy tight, just snug, give them a little nothing crazy. I think number 1's gonna leak on me. I don't trust that guy, but we're gonna find out. So there's 2 ways we can go about this. This is a diesel, so we need to purge all the air out of the system. Again, 2 ways to do it, depending on how much cranking you want to do. Way number 1 is you crank for about 10-15 seconds, and then you hit your purge valve up here, and providing it's working, a whole bunch of air comes out. And then you rinse and repeat until you get the air purged out of the system, and you get fuel everywhere, and then you should start trying to fire, right? The other way you can do this is, you know, crack an injector line and crank it until you start seeing fuel coming out of it. Tighten it up, check your next one, and so on and there forth until you see fuel coming from all 8 injector lines. And then same way, you know that you've got everything bled out and you're ready to go. Either or, both ways will get you there. Just kind of pick whichever way you want to do. I'm going to try to use the purge valve because I really don't feel like undoing those injector lines again after just tightening them all up. So let's see what happens. So you want to know which one I saw seeping fuel before the battery died? Number 1, like I thought. And on closer examination, what's going on is you'll notice, it's a little tricky to see, but you'll notice that the flare there, I have to push it forward to try to get it to seat, and it's not seating correctly. It's not seating square. So what's happening is you go to get it all the way, you know, snug. It's not snug. It's not working. So I got to figure out how to bend the line. And one tool you can use if you don't actually have a bender, take the box end of a wrench and you can carefully bend this a little bit. I'm having to get something bigger than I want because I got to get past this, you know, that right there. I guess alternatively, we could try to remove it down here at the injection pump and then see how we would need to bend this, and I might do that. I'll have to see how bad it is to try to get it off the injection pump, because then you introduce the risk that you go to put this back on the injection pump and it don't want to sit square. So I'll see, but that's definitely the issue. All other 7, so I was almost there. All other 7, they weren't leaking any fuel. Just that guy. Good afternoon, folks. Today is a new day. Please forgive my voice. Between the last time we spoke and today, had a cold. Still getting over it. So things kind of escalated since last we talked. I couldn't get this to stop leaking, and I think I had damaged some threads. So that meant I needed to pull this line. I think the injector side is okay. Now, to do that, that line comes in where my finger is right here. It is for injector number 7. That's what that is. Apparently, this Navistar engine does not follow the Ford cylinder pattern. So that is cylinder 7 in the corner. It comes back over here, and it is just about impossible to get a tool onto this to get it off. So what I wound up doing is I carefully removed the 3 on this side first, and then I wound up purchasing a SAE crow's foot set and used the 5/8, and there's one position about like that where it'll actually turn and not interfere with the fuel line right next to it, and I was able to use that to get it off. It was not fun, but I got it. Which leads us to the line, which is right here. This is the injection pump side. This is the injector side. And if you look, might be hard to see, but I did nick up a thread in here. Yeah, it's right there. And I think what was happening is once I did get it aligned right, it would get to that nick and then it'd just stop and lose the threading. And that was enough that was it and didn't work. So all that being said, in the time since I figured all that out, I did purchase a new Depaco, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, injector number 7 line, individual line. This was not cheap. This was like $70. You can get entire kits for $50 on Amazon, but I just don't know how much I would trust that. I would much prefer something more reputable, considering this line's got to hold 1,900 pounds of pressure, and considering how a pain in the butt it is to even get it on and off. I want to do this job once, and that's it. So I'm going to go ahead, take this new guy, and I'm going to test fit the injector side. And if we drop in, and I know we're seated if I cannot wiggle the return line cup. If you can wiggle the return line cup, you're not seated. That's something I figured out. So if it passes that sniff test, I'll go ahead and I'll tighten this side back down, and that'll be the end of it. I'll rebuild it all. However, if that don't work, what's going to have to happen is I'm going to have to take the injector out, get a tap and die kit for SAE, and then clean up those threads. And then try it all again. But one way or another, we're getting this sucker back together, because right now both of my trucks are down. Because somebody decided that he wanted to replace the U-joints. And I have a U-joint that is laughing in hysterics with my 10-pound sledge. It says, I don't care what you are. I'm not moving. What it doesn't know is I'm going to get myself a press. It will move. I'm done asking nice, but that's maybe another video for another day if you guys want to see that. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a new day. Talking over here because you're not going to be able to hear me when I'm over the engine, but I got all the lines back in, tightened everything up, fired it off. I had one line that leaked a little bit, but we're good. We're idling. Still had kind of a cranky start with some smoke, but it cleared away, and I'm going to chalk that up to the fact I did no glow, and I was trying to still purge air out of the line. So we're doing diesel-y things. Now I'm going to try to figure out why my tachometer is misbehaving again.